Hello everyone, Christina Werner here with another video for SimonsStamp.com. Today I'm going to be using the XL Rose Bouquet stencil to do some multicolor ink blending over a stencil, plus adding a little bit of glitter. So this stencil is quite large. It is 6 by 9. It's perfect if you have slimline cards or 5 by 7 cards like I'm doing today. I have a piece of 5 by 7 Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock, and I'm positioning my stencil over my cardstock, and I've decided that I want it all the way off to one side so that the leaves on the design can kind of fade off on the one side. I've taped it down with a low tack tape, and then I'm going to be using 6 different inks from Simons Stamp. I've got Fern, Teal, Duckling, Hollyhock, Hot Mama, and Hydrangea. I'm going to be using these really fun finger blender tools that came out in the latest release from Simon, and they all nest into each other, which is really kind of neat. And as I started distributing these out to the different inks, I realized that I somehow picked inks that match the blender tools. I don't know how I did that, but it's perfect because then I know what color of ink I've used for each little finger blender. Starting out with Duckling, and the thing that's really, really great about using very small blender brushes like this is that you can apply color to smaller areas and overlap and get a little more detail than you could with a larger brush. These little finger brushes are great because it gives you a lot of control. I found that they were very, very easy to use. I put my pointer finger inside the actual brush part and then just used my hand. It was super, super easy. After I had a little bit of that yellow shade on each flower, I came in with Hollyhock and added color to the flower next to the yellows. And I want to overlap these colors so they blend a little bit. I'm not adding a ton of this color to each flower because I have 2 more colors to use on the flowers today, and I want to make sure that I can see them all once I'm done with my blending. So you can kind of see how it would be hard to have so many colors on each flower if you used a larger blender brush. These little finger blender tools are pretty amazing. This is my first time using them, and I was really impressed with how much detail I could get with these. So I did want to mention that I taped my stencil to my cardstock here by turning it over and taping it from the back. That makes it so I can blend all the way to the edge without any interruption. So I've moved on to Hot Mama. I'm adding more of this color, and it's kind of like a red-violet shade. And then I came in with Hydrangea, and originally I was only going to have this very intense purple shade beyond the little berry images in this design. But then I loved this deep purple shade so much that I decided to start blending it onto the flowers and just sort of intensify that purple shade that I already had going. And it's going to give each of these flowers sort of a finishing look. They look rainbow-esque, even though not every single color of the rainbow is in here. You don't have any blue, but I really love how these turned out, and it makes me think of those multicolor rainbow roses that you can get nowadays. I've moved on to the color Teal, and when it comes to blending out the leaves, I'm going to add this teal shade kind of just on one end of each cluster of leaves. I don't want it to extend the entire amount of the leaves because I do have one more green shade to use. So I blended those out as best I could, and making sure to get all the beginning parts of the leaves, the areas that are closest to the flowers. And then I switched to my final color, which is Fern. And I'm going to fill in all the extra gaps or the remaining gaps of the leaves. And this green, it's more of a limey green. It brightens up all of those leaves and gives them a very lifelike color. I really like it. So I'm going to blend those out, and then I'm not done yet. I'm going to be adding some glitter on top. So I still have the stencil taped to my project. I'm using glitter dust in the color Silver, and I just sprayed over this twice. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area for this. I had to open a window. It's probably even better if you go outside, but since I'm filming, I didn't have that ability. And then make sure you remove your stencil right away and you're going to put it down on your work surface and abandon it while you go clean your stencil, because that glitter dust can really stick to a stencil. Use a brush, like a stiff stipple brush, to clean it off if you can, and use any type of soap that you would use for greasy dishes. So I used a really strong dish soap, and that got most all of the glitter off. I then took a 5x7 card base made out of that same Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I adhered my blended piece on top. For my greeting, I'm going to be using the Wishing You Joy die set from Simon Says Stamp's latest release. I used some silver foil cardstock for the main greeting. And then to help make it a little bit more legible, I die cut the shadow of the die in just white cardstock. And when it comes to assembling the greeting die cuts together, I like to use a liquid glue. Here I'm using Honeybee Precision Tip Glue. And I'd like to use a liquid glue because it gives me some time to really wiggle that die cut around and make sure it's positioned just perfectly on the shadow die cut. So you're going to see me put it down, and then I'm going to use my tweezers to kind of move it around and get it so that it's centered a little better on that shadow layer. After all of that is adhered, I put some foam tape strips on the back, making sure none were hanging off the edge, and then I used my tweezers to adhere it to my card. So I debated if I wanted it to be a portrait card or a landscape card, and eventually I went with a landscape card because I loved the look of those leaves kind of fading off. So I'm going to adhere this in the bottom right corner of my card. And that finishes the card for today. It's actually a very simple looking card, but with some fun techniques with that multicolor stencil ink blending and the glitter on top. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card. You can get all the supplies I've used today over at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.